Okay, hello and welcome to my Illari guide video. I have been wanting to make this video for a while now, and there's been a couple of things that got in the way of that, and then I thought I'd delay it to the end of the season to make it a end of season review of the hero as she got added at the beginning of season 6. But then on YouTube the other day, I happened to scroll across Spilo creating a best Illari guide with advanced tips and tricks. And he's an amazing content creator, an amazing coach, very much a big role model of mine in terms of how I try to conduct my educating and coaching. But I thought in planning this Illari video, I thought I was going to have a bit of my own sort of take on the hero, and somewhere that hasn't gone super in depth in terms of anything past initial thoughts when the hero got released. So I thought I had a great chance to sort of get my thoughts and opinions out there because I think it's still up for interpretation. But that being said, I haven't watched any of this video to keep my thoughts purely as my thoughts and to not have any bias in there. But I am really keen to see Spilo's take on the hero and what he includes in his video. So I did want to make this and get this out there. So I'll give my thoughts on the hero. I'll give a little bit of a debrief for people who aren't too familiar of the hero herself, where I think she is strong, where I think she falls short, and her abilities and whatnot. And then afterwards, I found this VOD of San Francisco Shock's proper playing Illari, flexing over to the support role to play her against the Vegas Eternal on Midtown. So we'll take a look at that afterwards. But firstly, Illari, to my knowledge and in my opinion, again, I think this is very much up for interpretation still. We're all still figuring out how she's played, especially as the meta shifts, and especially as she gets tweaked here and there, because she was obviously quite strong at launch. She's still quite strong, so we may see this change. I don't think she's a particularly fast hero. I think she's quite hard to dive. She's obviously very good at poke. She has very high damage potential, which allows her to take duels quite effectively, like really effectively, against threats and against DPS and other supports, better than most supports can, you know. Ana, of course, getting her damage nerfed again, back to its original. Baptiste not being strong in terms of his core since Overwatch 1, really. So Kiriko being the main one, but Illari becoming that next hero that can do the same thing. And what goes hand in hand with that is I think she's really good at holding space, better than she is at taking it. Not to say she can't take it, because she has the tools to do so. She can do it on her own. She doesn't need help to do it. But I think she is really good at establishing a power position, and she's really good at holding it. And then I think her healing beam range is solid, but then the ability to use the full range of her pylon, plus the full range of her beam, plus her quick movement ability, which we'll get into, which is Outburst, I think gives her a large effective healing range. Obviously, using that Outburst and trying to be liberal with the use of her pylon can be a pitfall, but it still is a high potential. But to just go over the hero, her left mouse button fires in charge rates. I'm sure you've all seen the basic breakdowns of the hero, so I won't spend too long on it, but she is quite strong. She has hit scan primary fire damage, and it's a lot of damage, and it has ammo, but it has this charge shot, and anytime you are reloading, anytime you are healing, you are stopping it from charging, you can see, and then it goes back. And I'm holding left click now. That first little break in the bar is the earliest you could possibly fire. The damage ramps up the more you charge it, and I think it is, unless they are like quite literally one tap, like perhaps, okay, but if they're quite low, then you can look to shoot quicker, but other than that, I think it's best to use the full charge of the primary fire. But yeah, that's what I have to say on the primary fire. The outburst is a great movement tool. You have the ability to get to high ground, you have the ability to kite away. It gives you a movement boost, it goes vertically if you want it to, and it also slightly pushes people away. As you can see, she got booped off the map. Two tricks that I learnt with this hero, I learnt them from a Yeetle video, so not completely my own take, but I did watch that very early on. If you want to have quick horizontal movement, you tap it, and then you hold space. Once you're in the air, you'll do a little B-hop at the end. That's the most horizontally you can move. If you want vertical movement, you're best off walking and then letting go of W and then pressing shift. That'll get you up as far as you can. If you want something in between the two, then just holding both shift and space and W throughout the whole duration will give you an arc somewhere in the middle. And those are the three main types. I think if you're messing it up and messing up the use a lot, it's probably because you are either holding the shift or you're still holding the W and pressing the shift or whatnot, and it's leading to inaccurate results in terms of where you're trying to end up. You can do a jump beforehand with the horizontal one, but I don't think it ends up to be as valuable as just tapping it and then holding space to do the B-hop at the end. I skipped over her right click, so I'll just go over that really quickly. Her right click has a pretty good effective range, about 10-15 meters, something like that. And it has that charge bar you can see in the middle of my screen. If you run it all the way out, it takes half a second longer to start recharging, then you can't use it while it is recharging. If I don't let it run out, then I can use it whenever I want, and it doesn't have that 0.5 seconds delay before it even starts recharging. I think that's most of what's to that. The pylon, of course, very effective at healing at long ranges. As you can see, you just need LOS of it, and it heals the person in need of the health the most. Because as you can see, there's the difference. He is in range, he is not in range. But if he was lower and in range, he would receive the healing. It will prioritize the lowest HP target, including yourself. And it has, I'll break it, chuck it down, has an 8-second cooldown, there you go, between when you can place it. If nothing damages it in that time, then I can just throw it out again wherever I want it. If I'm not happy with where I saw it, there's no cooldown decrease from me breaking it. There is, however, a decrease or an increase on the cooldown, pardon me, if it gets damaged. As you can see, if I break it now, there's a 12-second cooldown from whenever I break it, which will be important when we go into Proper's video, because pylon placement is a lot of her kit, and it's something that I will get into once I've gone through her last thing, which is her Captive Sun. Now, Captive Sun is a great ult tool, has a radius of about 5 meters, doesn't go through shields, it can be cleansed, it can be eaten, it can be deflected, but when you do land it, it is very effective. It applies this little Sunstruck effect. Doing damage will trigger the explosion. While they're affected by the Sunstruck or Captive Sun ability, they are incredibly weak in terms of their speed, they're slowed, and they will have that effect on them for the full 7 seconds of the ult. It is, I think, the main primary uses of it are to win 1v1s, counter aggression, or to combo with other ults. And I put the other two first because in lower ranks, or anything really below Master's GM, it's difficult to combine ults efficiently and consistently. So I think a really good use of it, especially when it charges so quickly, is to just confirm kills, similar to the way that you would High Noon almost, or to counter aggression. I think anytime the enemy team has established a strong power position, or if they have engaged with ults, or if they are pressuring your backline in general, and you just need to respond with something. I think it's a great tool for that. And part of that is that when you're countering aggression, it's rarely the start of a fight. And I think that's really important for Captive Sun, is that it needs to be used in the mid-fight because of the abilities that can counter it. And just the straight up healing that you can do to survive it, especially if you're a tank. That explosion obviously does a lot if you're squishy, but not so much if you're a tank, getting all the support in the world because no cooldowns have been burnt, like Thuzu and Lamp and Bubble and, you know, everything else. So I think that's important to understand. And similarly, whenever she's taking duels, you can just use the Captive Sun to win that duel, or to force certain abilities. You know, you're 1v1ing a Zen or something, then Captive Sun may just force an Ego Trance, something like that. It can gel well with damage over time ultimates if you're going to combo something. That can like slowly build pressure and like manage to make that explosion tick over. Something like Ram's Annihilation, Soldier's Visor, Moira's Coalescence, things like that. I'm using unorthodox examples because that's what you find in ranked. But even better than that, it works with abilities that combine well with the slowness that it provides, or the grouped upness. A very common use of that was Terror Surge, Orissa's ultimate, which was quite meta-defining for this season. And the last one is sort of just high damage, which can instantly trigger that Sun Explosion before they have a chance to react. Something like Sojourn's Overclock I found to be quite nice to combo with if you are not using it to just confirm 1v1s, or like 1v2s, like, you know, force an effective duel. That is all of her abilities. And the big takeaways, I think, is that she is in effect a combination of Kiriko and Brigitte. Her ability to make aggressive plays and absorb pressure on her own, constantly looking for damage opportunities, is really similar to Kiriko, but she then has the utility and the survivability to play in aggressive positions to deny enemy DPS value and enable her own teammates to play in power positions around the map. So I think that is where she, like, if you need a description of how she is best utilized, I think that is the best way to think of it. I think at a really fundamental level, there is so much value to be found in Illari from how much has to be dedicated to you to remove you from power positions. And that requires you to be really proactive in how you position around the map, which is obviously quite a skill to develop in the ranked environment compared to a scrim setting. I keep bringing up ranked and that stuff because the example we're going to take a look at is proper in an Overwatch League level match, but there's obviously conditions that come with that, and we'll get into that in a moment. But Pylon is, in essence, the biggest part of her kit. I don't think there's anyone arguing otherwise. I think it's a huge ability. It allows her to position aggressively and to absorb pressure and then, in effect, you know, indirectly relieve it by absorbing it from her own angle and constantly look to do damage, or to set this sort of crossfire or off angle or power position up with a friendly DPS. I think when you have map control, you can use it like in position like this. Never mind, it's out of LOS. But you can use it in a position to hit multiple people. You know, bad example, but somewhere like that where it can reach everyone and just be constantly healing, giving you ult charge. But I think when you don't have map control, it's much better used selfishly, much better used to allow yourself to play in aggressive positions and take 1v1s against the enemy team. And I think whenever you're able to use it selfishly and go make a play, you're going to find a lot more value, and you're going to be a lot more consistent in finding value in ranked settings or unpredictable settings. I think an important thing to remember in terms of playing Illari is, say we're taking a duel with this robot, a lot of people will look to put the pylon here or somewhere like this where it's just around the corner, and so as long as they're not passing this plane, then they're able to still get healing from the pylon. I think instead, the better thing to do is to put it somewhere like here. And yes, that's more technically out in the open and less in the cover, but I think the ability to be able to kite back to here and for it not to be sort of in front of you, for it to still be behind you, or for you to kite back here and then the enemy to focus it as a distraction, or for you to have already broken it and then to put it in places like this, has so much value. I think it's really important, and I've tried to coin it as a term. I think of it as like sort of a leapfrog system where my pylon is there, I'm here. If I want to regress, I'm going to regress back to here, and then the pylon's going to go, that was probably a bad example, back to here. If the enemy is here and I'm shooting there, then they push me, then I go past my pylon again. And in a similar way, if it is here again, if I want to aggress, if I'm shooting here and I'm healing, shooting, and then I want to aggress, then I throw it here, and then I'm throwing it there, assuming there's no bots there damaging it, and then I'm in front of it, right? And then it's leapfrogged my previous position. And I think going that 1-2, 1-2 is much better than positioning it in places like this, where you have to, like, if you kite, the difference is the kiting, right? If you're kiting here, it's already there. You can still stand in front of this and sort of body block for it while it's healing you, or you can let them take the heat. If it's there, there's no option. You got to break it and get out, or you got to use it as a distraction tool. So I think the leapfrog just gives you that option, while essentially giving you the same LOS you have as if it was up there. So I think that's an important thing to remember, and it's something that we're going to try to remember when we go into this VOD now. And I'll just leave this practice range to avoid any background noise. But things we're going to take a look at, and I've timestamped a lot of points in this match, but 3 things to remember whenever you're analyzing Overwatch League matches. Number 1, they are playing to their environment, which means they are playing in a team setting with other OWL level players, and they're playing against specific teams, which means they've looked at film against the Vegas Eternal. They have identified what team comps they like to play, and they're playing a comp to beat that team composition. They're playing on a specific map that they've scrimmed 1 million times with 4 other Overwatch League players. Right? You aren't playing in this setting, so your matches are going to be different, obviously. Number 2, they play a specific and meta composition against an equally specific and meta composition, which means the way Proper is going to play will not accurately reflect your comp games, which are made up of some hideous hybrid composition that has 1 hero from Poker, 1 hero from Brawl, and then 3 from Dive. That's not going to happen, right? These are both very hard poke compositions. Obvious giveaway for that is a Sigma usually, but then also usually Hitscan and Torb/Baptiste or Zenyatta is another good one. And number 3, they have the best players in the world communicating with them, right? So they're going to be able to just know where people are without even seeing them. They may be rotating, and you're wondering why they're rotating. They, like, the Tracer hasn't even shown themselves. They got 4 other sets of eyes, essentially, that are their own, right? Because they got them talking in their ear constantly. So those are the 3 things to remember whenever you're analyzing pro players and trying to take something away from them or incorporate something into your gameplay. Remember, it doesn't mean it will work at your level because it's not even remotely the same environment. But nonetheless, we'll get into this VOD. Hopefully it's not too loud to try and make it as quiet as possible, but still keep some sound. And yeah, we'll see what we can take from this. Around 30 seconds, I got my first timestamp marked. But you're going to see that he's just rolling out with his team for now. Hasn't placed pylon, hasn't committed to anything yet. Just doing a bit of scouting. He knows his spam angles, because again, they've scrimmed this 100 times over. But he's just going to rotate with his team to start out. I think he throws this pylon as a little bit of a troll. But maybe he was trying to get it in there to help while he goes on this off angle. Nonetheless, it gets broken. But you can see instantly here, right? He is trying to split and create this crossfire with his Torbjorn because he needs to find his own damage. And you're going to see just how much he actually uses his guns healing in this game. He really just relies on the pylon. There are a few key moments, whether it's because someone is critical or they have the Eternal have invested more into this and like are really focusing someone, or he's just trying to charge ult. Those are really the 3 times, and it's really rare anyway. But the other thing is that if he is able to just only have to worry about Striker on Torb, he has a lot more opportunity to just look for damage output and just allow his pylon to do the healing. So again, this is the issue that I have with people putting it on doorways or against walls that they're holding, is that it cuts LOS really hard, and it's more the high ground that's doing this, and maybe he went to go high ground but ended up playing low. But it's actually not an LOS of Striker, and Striker's going to come here, he's going to heal him up a bit, might think he's going to get the mini, plus some pylon healing, probably thinks he's fine, he's going back to damage, and then turns around and Striker is dead. So, misplay from Striker, misplay from Proper, who knows, but one thing's for sure, if the pylon was just lower or on the floor, it would actually be healing the Torbjorn right now, and it's one less thing for Proper to worry about. But again, this pylon usage, not terrible. Gives him a chance to peek this window. Maybe he doesn't want to push if he sees the Torbjorn there, so he just sits there for a bit. Instead, he's going to push out. I do think he should have hesitated a little to have pylon able to be replaced when he's taking this duel. But nonetheless, he almost gets punished for it. He's on 10 health, but Proper is just a mechanical god, so he's going to get away with that 1v1. I think it's important to remember, though, in that Torbjorn era, is that he still kept the mindset of doing the least amount of healing and trying to maximize his damage output. And I think that's really important to be able to play Illari effectively, and I found that to be why I wanted to watch Proper's point of view, because he, as a DPS player, will have this hunter-killer sort of mindset to his gameplay, more than perhaps a heal-botting nature or something like that. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Proper's pylon positioning here because of the fact that he's going to take, and you can see he utilized the not moving and holding shift and space to get maximum height just then, get up onto the high ground, but he's effectively holding the same angle as his pylon, right? And so if he's playing this angle to be safe, only damage people who play such an aggressive angle out onto this point that can see him, or anyone who walks out onto point from this angle. But I think for the most part, he's playing a less aggressive position right now to where he can heal his teammates. So he should just be putting the pylon somewhere low against this floor so that anyone down here can't actually damage it, and it can just keep pocketing him so he can do his job better. I think that is a better use of his pylon in this situation, especially because he's sitting on top of it. So anyone that it's healing, he is also probably healing. While also healing people on point, which the Baptiste is healing, and the Baptiste does it better because he has AoE, not single target healing. So yeah, but of course, you know, Proper is Proper. We give him leeway because, you know, most likely they won't even get a chance to shoot the pylon. This is another one. I think this is a good example of the difference the leapfrog sort of system can make, where he's not even getting healing from his pylon in this situation because of the roof. As he goes to peek this corner, he actually has to kite to his pylon in a second to actually get healing from the damage he takes right here. Like, he's still 150, and he actually has to kite back to here. And I think that's a bit of a red flag if you're ever looking at your own Illari gameplay, if you're ever having to lose value or stop like putting out damage or putting out pressure just to kite to your pylon to heal, instead of being able to do both at the same time, there might be a misposition there. But this is good, we're just looking for some poke. We're being careful of the LOS of the two one-shot sort of heroes at the moment. This pylon's a little out in the open, but it is healing everyone because he has map control right now. No one's really going to push into this zone. And it's also somewhat away from anyone that's able to get spammed out by the Sigma. But you're going to see now, he's got his abilities, he looks for a shot, gets a headshot, still looking at damaging. Not as much of a fan of this because I think it can get damaged quite easily. It's going to force it out. But then he just uses the outburst there as a way to get up in the air because he knows he's about to ult. And I think that's another little alternate use of the ability. And you can see all the while he's in the air, though not being super careful, he is still using cover. But he probably knows he doesn't have to be too careful because there's a Widow 1v1 going on and they're more concerned with each other than him in terms of what LOS they have access to. You can also see in this clip, he doesn't risk his life to confirm that kill, right? Like he triggered the explosion, it got lamped, he didn't end up on that side of the barrier trying to still follow up the low HP target, right? He just used it, it forced abilities, it forced space, it countered the aggression that they may have been able to take off this Sigma flux, and I think this is a great use of the Captive Sun. And he hits the squishies, right? Doesn't look to hit the Sigma. I thought he actually does still hit the Sigma. And they're just cleaning up the fight here. Still dueling the Widow, not afraid at all. I think that's another great thing to take into your own gameplay, is to absolutely try and look to take these duels. And I think this is another bit of a troll pylon. If it's not, you can just see that even the pros are still experimenting with different ideas in different places, trying to find the OP spots. So I think that's quite interesting in itself. But this next pylon is a great example, right? I think this is a little bit, I give this one a little bit of leeway to my sort of like leapfrog guidelines, because it's such a wide angle he's about to take, and this pylon isn't just for him. He's also not in a position that can get punished very easily because they don't have highly mobile heroes like Tracer and stuff. If they did, I assume he may position it differently, but I would expect him to as well. And you can see the second, he's like trying to open up his angle. He's still looking for damage, even though there's a Sig 1v1 going on in front of him, right? But then the second someone tries to actually aggress onto him or put some pressure on him, he uses his outburst to get to safety, and then he's next to his pylon again. And still using this wall to control LOS of the Widow. And now just in the cleanup phase because Probe popped off. And you can see he's being really proactive with his positioning in terms of where he's actually rotating to. Obviously, again, he has 4 Overwatch League players in his ear. But you can see, this is what I was talking about earlier in terms of there is so much they're going to have to dedicate to getting them off this high ground now. And I think a lot of Overwatch teams would go up here regardless of the Illari. But I think this is something you can do, you can take into your ranked games and do on your own. I don't think you need other people up here to do this because you are that self-sufficient and you can always just outburst off this high ground, either onto the next one to his right or just back to cart or back to main, back to your team. But I think this is a really good position. I want to highlight the difference here. I don't think this is a good pylon again. I think this is trying to do too much, right? This is maintaining LOS to people on cart, where I don't think it needs to, because he's got 2 of his teammates in front, which means there's a Widow and there's a Baptiste somewhere on the map. The Widow is going to be pretty self-sufficient. She's not getting dove or anything, and the Baptiste has his own healing. So this pylon is for really only these three. And Sigma's really self-sufficient, so it's really only pocketing yourself and Striker on the Bastion. I think the pylon can be behind him in a similar manner to the leapfrog system that I explained in the practice range before. And I think that just gives LOS to who it needs. And the other difference is when you put it up high, like you normally would, but you're on high ground, these guys can see it from the low ground and they can break it, right? Whereas if you put it on the floor on high ground, that's the same as you using the floor to control LOS, where they can't see it. And they also can't spam it like they might be doing right now off the SIG AoE. So I think just putting it back in this corner where he is, or putting it against this wall, but low on the wall, so it's perpendicular with the floor, I think is a much better use of it. It allows you to then kite back this way if they push you, but also if they push out here, then you can still rotate backwards and get healing from it. You can hear them coming up. They're going to dedicate Bob to the high ground. He outbursts away. He doesn't quite make it to the high, so he just drops. And then this is a really good placement of pylon, right? This is much better. Just being able to throw it down, see if I can get a shot of it. Where it is right now, it's controlling LOS of this area in front of him. It's controlling, it's healing anyone in LOS of cart behind him, and it's going to allow him to play all the way up into here. And I think this is the best explanation of leapfrog I can show, that instead of putting it on this wall, it's back there and it's doing multiple things. It's serving multiple people because they have map control. And it also means that when he kites, he's still technically in range of it. He can be in front of it, body blocking for it, or he can be using it as a distraction, but it's not going to get poked out while he's here. It's not going to get quickly broken the second they turn this corner either. And then he's going to be able to make better decisions and also have more options when rotating backwards if he needs to. And in the same way, the second he presses W past this corner, they would both lose LOS. There's no difference in the LOS right now in terms of the moment he chooses to go aggressive. Again, keep noting that he's constantly looking for damage. How much have we seen him heal beam so far? Like, very little. And you can see he's still looking for damage the whole time. Hasn't had to move his pylon, now he does. And again, putting it where he did was much better than putting it against this doorway, because now he's actually able to aggress onto this angle, right? And be able to hold this ground. And you can see the Widow jumps up and takes a shot. He's still looking for damage, and here's one of the few moments he heal beams, but he's only doing the damage that he can afford to do. He's not risking anything. He's just doing the damage that he can do to keep putting out pressure, rather than just sitting there heal botting and then being like, there's a Widow, I can't risk it. He's still looking to do something, and he even takes a duel with the Widow in the end, and then uses ult to confirm kills, right? And just make sure there's no staggers on his own team. And now they're just going to walk it in. He's going to throw it up there to help serve everyone in this last fight if it comes to it. But it doesn't. They get to push it in with a 3-minute time bank, which is huge. I'll skip ahead a bit now. You can see he's just poking out, playing his distance, really utilizing the lack of drop-off damage on Illari. And you can see he's holding this space on the right-hand side of the map, his pylon up high, helping this Torbjorn. He doesn't need the help. He's got the support passive if he needs to recover. They're not about to rush on him. They're not playing a fast composition. And normally they would counter rotate here. But as Vegas is going to push into the back alley, around the back into this street, he's actually going to use the strength of Illari and hold his ground with the Torbjorn just to buy time for his main stack to push in from the back and pull off a pinch. Because you would normally counter-rotate this poke and keep poking and playing your distance. But because he has this as his fight plan, his team's fight plan, him and the Torb are going to hold the space. He's only going to take the duels which he feels confident taking. Right now he's going all the way in because his team is. Other than that, he's letting Striker do it, and he's just keeping Striker alive. Again, using the outburst to quickly cut LOS and kite if he needs to. But otherwise, doing a great job of just constantly putting out pressure. Just then to top off Striker and get some ult charge was one of the few moments we've seen him actually use his heal beam in this VOD. Now they're going to set up in the same position again, playing their angles, setting up a crossfire, constantly looking for damage. And you can see he's getting a lot of headshots because he's just mechanically very skilled. This time, the main stack not in a position to aggress into this alleyway and set off a pinch from either side. So what do? They don't try and hold this space as Torbjorn and Illari. They break turrets, they rotate out. He's going to use his outburst to get somewhere quickly. And he put his pylon on the window to use selfishly because he knows if he peeks this and takes damage, he's going to take a lot of damage through the back window. But looks for damage. Now he's taken aggression. He's going to cut LOS of that and look to poke out these guys. And just waiting. Now the back window's over. You can see Shocker now pushing in with their ultimates. Now he's looking to peek the window and play aggressively. He puts the pylon down for himself, and he's going to take a duel. And he's going to win the duel. He is at no point playing pocket to his Torb. He's at no point playing passively. He's constantly finding the perfect balance between when they go out, he goes in. When they go in, he goes out, unless his team has a plan otherwise. And holding on to Captive Sun at the moment because they don't need to invest it. Finn gets picked off at the end of that fight by a good play from Dove. And he looks to get a pick but can't find it. So now they're going to play a little bit passively. They lost someone at the end of that fight. You can see he's going to pile on a different angle now. But still helping everyone on this off angle. Another important thing to remember that I didn't quite touch on just a second ago is when he takes this fight with Torb, he's going to put pylon there, but he's not going to really like hard hug the wall, right? He's going to use it to control LOS of anyone else coming to help the Torb, but by putting it up there, he's forcing the Torb to make a decision to either shoot the pylon or to shoot him. Shooting him, he can obviously out-damage the pylon with some headshots as Torbjorn, but he has to hit those headshots, or does he spend the time breaking pylon and hoping that someone can support him long enough to then take a duel? Instead, he just tries to get the kill, and by putting it on that wall, anyone who came to help the Torbjorn would have had to have quite hard swung around the corner to actually have LOS of it. And you can see Torb and Illari rotating, but now they're going to stick here and they're going to hold their space. They're going to declare that this is their space, they walk in, and then Proper actually gets punished. He uses his ult, doesn't stick near cover, tries to go for too big of an ult, probably trying to dodge Sig Shield and Sig Eat as well, but it's a little aggressive and it gets punished. And so didn't really find the right balance there, / utilize cover while ulting. But we'll just skip ahead to the timestamps I have. This is an example of map control. You can also see they lost the previous fight and they're at an ult disadvantage now. So at the moment they're just going to spend the next sort of minute or so trying to build ultimates, trying to poke, trade damage. You can see he's playing his distance from his pylon so the Sig can't damage it with AoE. Other than that, it's just healing a bit of everyone. He's looking to just keep damaging. Because he also recognizes any healing he does is taking away from Baptiste's healing. And Baptiste with drop off can't get as much ultimate charge and as much value from doing damage as he can. At least not in this current situation anyway, but for most of the time that applies. And he's just sitting up here, trading damage, trading damage. Now Tuyu's going to use an ultimate here on a Flux, and a great use of the cooldown to just kite LOS. Unfortunately fell off, so couldn't look to support his team. But still a great use and great reaction time to use it. Now using it in an aggressive sense. And what does he do? He counters enemy aggression with it, right? He sees this off angle, he wants to take this fight, and he counters the aggression with it. He forces them out just with the use of his ult. And then the Bastion ends up pushing it with him, but he uses the pylon selfishly instead of leaving it where it was supporting a lot of people, and takes the jewel, and then is now just in the cleanup phase again. And just a few more timestamps that I wanted to make attention to. Again, he's still looking, after that fight, he's now set up in an aggressive position, still looking for damage, still looking to take some jewels. And I think this is another example of where the leapfrog system would have helped. Instead of having it here, having it where he currently is, or just a little bit behind, to have LOS of where he's playing, right? You need to like min-max it or limit test the LOS of it, because you're never going to lose LOS of it anywhere here. Whereas putting it in somewhere where you may lose it if you position like here, but why do you want to be here? You can't actually do anything because of this wall. Whereas it only needs to see you a little bit of cover, so you've got somewhere to kite to if you're really low, but other than that, it should just be seeing you where you can actually find value and be putting out pressure. And as they start to rotate through here, because they want to force out these two, he actually gets punished for it, tries to rotate out, they have to break it. And it's worth noting, if it does get damaged before you have a chance to manually break it, there is some value to be said for leaving it up, so they have to spend the time to break it. Especially with highly mobile heroes, that you want to delay how quickly they can play onto you. Again, still playing fearless as ever, going for that kill on the Sojourn. But because of his poor use of the pylon before, he doesn't have it up now to, you know, be pretty safe with it and throw it somewhere against this wall, and then take this duel with the Torbjorn. To his credit, he had Outburst ready to him to try and kite, but the Torbjorn hits his shots, and he gets punished. I don't like it too much here. I think it could be really good being against this wall, sticking out like that and healing people, or up in this room, or somewhere against this wall more, or just behind him in general, because he can always move it to aggress forward. He can't move it to aggress back in its current position, and he ends up getting broken. So he has to break it manually because it gets damaged. He's got a 12-second cooldown. He's still looking to do damage. You can see he's still rarely healing. Doing some now because the Sig has to contest. And now he has his cooldowns. Now he looks for his aggressive play, right? He's punishing this aggression on the off angle. He's never, you see, is never going for the main stack. He's never going for anyone positioning on main. He's looking for the people he can punish who are isolated and in aggressive positions, because he's trying to deny that aggression. And then they clean up the team fight. I think it's a great idea to have this same mindset that Proper takes into this hero with his DPS mindset. Obviously though, be careful about how much you limit test his damage to heal ratio, because again, this is our competitive match, not your ranked lobbies where you can't be comming with 4 other high level players all the time and be making the right decisions and controlling what they do. So yeah, that's my overall guide and overall take on the hero. I hope this was informative to people trying to climb on the hero. I hope it was educational for people just wanting to know more about Illari as a hero. And yeah, leave comments or DM me on Discord telling me what you think, telling me if I got stuff wrong, telling me if I got stuff right, tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't like. I think it's still up for interpretation. I definitely don't think that this is the full and definitive guide on Illari. There's definitely things that I still don't know about, and there's definitely things that people may not agree with. But nonetheless, I hope it helped, and I'm really excited to make more content like this, so let me know if there's anything that you want me to take a look over or you want my opinions on. More than happy to do that. I do want to start looking at more pro players and teams, and delivering some educational content and analysis on them, especially towards the end of the Overwatch League season. But nonetheless, take care, all the best with your games, and yeah, I hope this helped. Thank you so much for watching.